This stranger broke into our home and is trying to ruin my daughter's precious engagement party. Arrest her immediately. Right in front of me, clinging to the police officer while pretending to cry, was my stepmother, Susan. Beside her, acting as though she were trembling in fear, was my stepsister, Hannah. I felt the officer's stern gaze on me, yet I remained strangely calm. Unbelievable. Do you have any idea how much effort I put into preparing for today? She's a thief. An awful thief. Susan's dramatic performance continued, and the thief she pointed at was unmistakably me. The luxury house they had decorated as if it belonged to them was, without question, the house I inherited after my mother passed away, the very home she had herself inherited from my grandparents. As I watched the officer reach for his handcuffs, I let out a slow, deep breath. The cool wind from the lake brushed across my cheek. How had things come to this? Why was I about to be arrested as an intruder in my own home? Everything began with an unexpected phone call 3 weeks ago. I was in my Manhattan design office, struggling over the plans for my next project, when my phone lit up with the name Dad. It had been more than 6 months since I last heard from my father, John. "Hello, Avery, how have you been?" His voice, coming through the receiver, carried the same overly ingratiating tone it always had. "I'm good. And you?" "Oh, I'm doing well. Everyone's doing well. Actually, I have a favor to ask." I heard someone whispering behind him. It was without a doubt Susan. I could practically picture her pulling his strings like a puppet. Unable to hide my suspicion, I asked, "What kind of favor?" He then brightened his voice and said, "It's about Hannah. She's finally gotten engaged to a young man named David. He's a really good guy. We're planning to throw a celebration party next month." "I see. Congratulations." My tone was flat. Hannah and I weren't related by blood, and considering all the bullying she and Susan had put me through, there was no way I could sincerely celebrate her happiness. "So, Avery, Susan and I were wondering if we could hold the party at your lake house." I instinctively frowned. The house by Lake George was my sanctuary. It is a place filled with memories of my mother, a refuge from the noise of the city. And they wanted to use it? Why not book a hotel or restaurant? "Well, you see," Hannah insisted. "She says the house is beautiful and the garden is spacious. She wants a warm, intimate family gathering. Besides," he hesitated, "I'm hoping this could be a chance for us to become a family again. You haven't visited much lately, haven't you? Susan says she regrets how things were. I'd love for us all to gather and clear the air. And of course, I want you to come. Not as a guest, but as one of the most important people there." Family. That word was a sweet poison for me. After losing my mother, I'd been alone for so long. Once my father remarried, I lost my place in the house and worked desperately to become independent as fast as I could. Now, at 28, I have built a successful career as an architectural designer, and I'm living a life free of financial hardship. Yet deep inside, there remained an empty space that nothing seemed to fill. To talk and laugh with my father again. It was a childish hope, perhaps, but it still lingered within me. All right. After a long silence, I found myself agreeing. "Really? Thank you, Avery. You don't mind if we use the spare key, do you? We'll handle all the preparations. You can just show up on the day of the party and enjoy yourself as a guest." After hanging up, a wave of regret washed over me. Yet at the same time, a faint hope bloomed. Maybe Hannah's engagement had finally made her grow up. Maybe Susan no longer felt the need to see me as an enemy. That fragile hope clouded my judgment. And so came the day of the party. I was driving my SUV north from Manhattan toward the lake house. On the passenger seat lay a neatly wrapped gift box, a Tiffany crystal bowl, my engagement present for Hannah. I had also splurged on a bottle of vintage red wine for my father and stepmother. At a glance, I must have looked like a daughter hurrying home to celebrate a family occasion. But at the bottom of my bag, in stark contrast to all those cheerful gifts, lay a far colder kind of preparation. I exhaled quietly as I gripped the steering wheel. Whatever happens, everything ends today. My murmured words echoed faintly inside the car. "I'm here." I slowed down as I reached the familiar entrance to my private drive. The gate stood wide open, and several cars were already parked inside. I could see the catering van and a truck loaded with decorations. Pulling the car to the side, I turned off the engine. I took one deep breath. It's fine. This is my house. I have every right to be here. Reassuring myself, I grabbed the gift box and the wine and then stepped out. The crunch of gravel beneath my feet sounded unnaturally loud. In the garden, rows of chairs wrapped in white ribbons were neatly arranged, and beautiful floral arches stood towering overhead. It was true. They prepared an impressive party. Oh, a voice called from the direction of the front door. There they stood, Hannah in a pure white dress and Susan in an ostentatious cocktail dress, looking down at me from the deck. Hannah, congratulations! And Susan, it's been a while. I climbed the steps and approached them, but instead of the welcome I had foolishly expected, something entirely different came back. Susan gave me a single, contemptuous glance, as though she were looking at something filthy. What on earth are you wearing? Isn't that a bit too flashy for the catering staff? My face froze. What? Did you not hear me? Don't just walk in here as you please. This property is reserved today. Hannah giggled softly. Mom, she's Avery. I know who she is, but was her name on the guest list? My heart began pounding. A horrible premonition spread across my spine like ice. What are you talking about? Dad called me. I was invited. I even brought a gift. Look. I lifted the box slightly to show it to her, but Susan ignored it completely and let out an exaggerated sigh. Then, in a voice shocking in its cruelty, she delivered the final blow. You must be joking. Why would we invite an outsider like you to such an important party? This is our lake house, a sacred place for only family members. She took a step toward me, peering into my face. Hannah, call the police. Tell them an intruder broke in. We can't have trash lying around when guests start arriving. Something inside me collapsed with a deafening silence. The fragile belief, my foolish, desperate hope that they might have grown a conscience, shattered completely. With a wicked smile, Hannah pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. Of course, Mom. Hello. Is this the police? Please help. An intruder has broken into our home. It wasn't petty cruelty. It was a meticulously laid trap crafted to destroy me socially and steal the house entirely. My hand, still clutching the gift box, began to tremble. Not from fear. From rage, pure, overwhelming rage I had never felt before. So, that's how it is, I murmured, my voice so soft no one could hear. All right, have it your way. In the distance, the sound of a police siren echoed. I did not run. I simply stood there, silent and still, waiting for the moment their downfall would begin. As the sirens grew louder, victorious smiles crept across Susan's and Hannah's faces. This is the end for you, Avery. Once you're arrested for trespassing and threatening us, your career is over. Susan whispered smugly and lifted her glass with elegant ease. It was undoubtedly champagne taken from my wine cellar without permission. I said nothing. The last shred of mercy I'd ever had for the people who were once my family had been trampled beyond repair. All that remained in me was a cold, razor-sharp resolve. A few minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up on the private drive. Police! What's happening here? The officers' voices rang out. As if she had been waiting for this cue, Susan hurried toward them. Oh, thank goodness you're here. This woman, she suddenly showed up and started screaming at us to cancel the party. It's my engagement celebration. She tried to shove us, Hannah added, piling lie upon lie. The officer's stern gazes stabbed into me. You there, don't move. Hands up. Nearby, the catering staff and a few early arriving guests had gathered, whispering anxiously. Slowly, I raised my hands to shoulder height, exactly as instructed. I haven't attacked anyone. I'm unarmed. I kept my voice as calm as possible. Snapping emotionally would be exactly what Susan wanted. You liar! Shut up! Susan shrieked. She hates us. She's a stalker obsessed with inheritance. Hurry, put the cuffs on her and take her away. One of the officers stepped right in front of me. Do you have an ID? Name? Avery Smith. My ID is in my bag. May I take it out? When I asked him, he nodded warily. Moving slowly, I retrieved my wallet from my shoulder bag and handed over my driver's license. Avery Smith, Manhattan resident. Why are you here? I'm home, that's all. The officer frowned. Home? According to the callers, this is their vacation house, and you're a trespasser. No, that's not true. I turned my gaze directly towards Susan and Hannah. This is my house. I am the legal owner. Huh? What are you talking about, you delusional woman? Hannah scoffed. This is Dad's house, and what's his is ours. You were practically disowned. Then, hearing the commotion, John, my father, rushed out from inside the house. What is going on here? His face went pale when he saw me standing before police officers. Dad, I called out to him. Tell them. Tell the officers that you invited me. And tell them whose house this really is. His eyes darted anxiously. Caught between Susan's sharp glare and my pleading look, he panicked. Well. John, Susan's voice was low, icy, commanding. Be honest. This house belongs to all of us, doesn't it? She's the one causing trouble by claiming rights that aren't hers. My father's lips trembled, and then he looked away from me. I'm sorry, Avery. Please, just go home for today. The moment I heard those words, something inside me snapped cleanly. He would not protect me. He would twist the truth itself to keep his wife and her daughter pleased. I see. My voice was ice. There was nothing left to hold on to. Come down to the station, one of the officers said. A hand reached toward my wrist. Please wait. I didn't budge. Instead, I pulled a smartphone and a document from my bag. Before you rely on verbal claims, would you look at the legal proof? A bitter, ironic relief flickered in me. Bringing this was the right decision after all. I had hoped, pathetically, that maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't need to use it. However, my years of experience had already warned me, they will betray you. Prepare for the worst. Sadly, that instinct turned out to be right. Without hesitation, I drew the weapon I had prepared. Evidence? Yes, first, this. I held up the screen of my smartphone. Displayed there was the digital certificate of the property registration. Property owner Avery Smith. The address and parcel number clearly referred to this place. And next, this. I unfolded the set of documents I had been keeping. They included a certified copy of my late mother's will and the official legal documents confirming the completed transfer of ownership. This property was inherited solely by me, Avery Smith, from my mother Mary Smith, who passed away 15 years ago. My father John has no inheritance rights whatsoever. And of course, neither of these ladies, Susan nor Hannah, has even an inch of legal claim. The officer took the documents and examined them under his flashlight. I see. The property is indeed under your name. His tone shifted slightly. That's a lie, it's forged, Susan shrieked. John, say something. You told me on the phone last week that we could use it freely. But the keys. My father stammered, trying to make excuses. I calmly took out a small receipt and a brand new set of keys from the bottom of my bag. Use it freely? I did say fine. But I never said I would give you the keys. Turning to the officer, I explained in a steady voice. Actually, I had all the locks replaced yesterday. The color drained from their faces. You changed the locks? The officer asked me again. Yes, I have no idea how they managed to get inside, but... Oh, right. I fixed Susan with an icy stare. Did you threaten Paul, the caretaker, to hand over a spare key? He called me last night in tears, saying, John's wife told me I'd be fired if I didn't give her the key. The officer shot a sharp look at Susan. Ma'am, is that true? If you actually forced the caretaker and entered with an unauthorized key, that changes things. Inside, I smiled coldly. This was the test I had set up. When my father called and suggested fixing the family relationship, I felt suspicion long before anything like joy. If they saw me only as a source of money or a convenient tool, then the moment they found out the keys didn't work, they would try to get in by any means, without my permission. So the previous day, I secretly changed all the locks and instructed Paul to stay silent. Call me immediately if they try anything. As expected, they threatened Paul, stole a key, and barged in like they owned the place. Then they made the worst possible choice, calling the police to accuse me of being a thief. If they had simply greeted me with a smile when I arrived and said, "We've been waiting for you," I would have given them the new keys and let everything go. the gifts in my trunk could have been offered as a sincere gesture of celebration, but the gamble ended in my favor. No, this was the end of us as a family. That's not true. We are family. We were doing this for my daughter's engagement party. Regardless of whether you're family or not, the officer cut her off. Ownership is absolute. Miss Avery Smith is the legal owner, and she had already expressed her intent by changing the locks to deny entry. If you threatened the caretaker and forced your way in, that constitutes aggravated trespassing. The atmosphere flipped completely. The guests who had treated me like a criminal moments ago stared at Susan and the others with suspicion and disdain. Wait, what is this? So you held a party in someone else's house without permission? I heard whispers spreading through the crowd. Hannah turned bright red and screamed, "But the invitations are already out. The guests are here. We can't cancel it now." That is none of my concern, I replied coldly. I will never allow a party to be held in my house without my permission. I turned to the officer again. As the rightful owner of this property, I request the immediate removal of all uninvited individuals from the premises, especially these three. I pointed at my father, my stepmother, and Hannah. What? Susan looked as if she were about to collapse on the spot. My party. My plan. Hannah burst into tears, trying to hide behind her fiancé. He looked completely overwhelmed as he gently tugged her arm. Let's go, Hannah. My father didn't even try to look at me. He slumped his shoulders and hurried toward his car as if running away. Wait, I called out. Susan turned around with a hateful glare. What? What more do you want? Yes, clean up. I pointed at the tents and decorations spread across the garden. Take all this trash with you. Leave everything exactly the way it was. Spotless. If even a single rose petal remains, I'll send you an extremely expensive cleaning bill. Her lips were clenched so tightly it looked like she might bite through them, and with tears of frustration streaming down her face, she began yelling at the catering staff. Clean it up! Hurry! She looked ridiculous, pathetic really. The takedown took about an hour. The decorations were ripped down and tossed into trucks. The guests who had just arrived quickly understood what was happening and slipped away in silence. And then, 1 week later, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into my online banking. Auto loan. Hannah, vehicle purchase. 2 years ago, when Hannah graduated from college, she begged my father for a bright red sports car, claiming she needed it for job hunting. But my father's credit score was too low to take out a loan. After his tearful pleading, I reluctantly became the loan holder under my name. My father said, I'll make the payments, but every time he fell behind, I ended up covering for him. And before I knew it, it had become the norm. I gripped my mouse and clicked on the loan entry. Hannah treated the car like some kind of status symbol. What she forgot was this. The legal owner of that car and the person financially responsible for the loan was me. Terminate. Without hesitation, I pressed the stop button. With a single click, Hannah's prized luxury vehicle turned into nothing more than unpaid debt. I closed my laptop and let out a long exhale. The effect was dramatic and immediate. 3 days later, in the middle of the afternoon, my phone started vibrating wildly. The screen showed, Hannah. I ignored it. Next came Susan, then call after call until the entire screen was filled with their names. I kept my phone on silent and continued working. By evening, I finally listened to the accumulated messages. Hey, what's going on? My card didn't work at the gas station. The bank says the car loan hasn't been paid. Hannah's shrill scream. Is this revenge? Stop acting like a child. Hannah is crying. Don't you feel sorry for her? She has a date tomorrow and now she has no car. Pay it immediately. Susan's furious roar. I didn't reply. Silence is the strongest refusal, and the strongest weapon. But I also knew them far too well to think they would give up. The next day. It was a little past 2 a.m. I was reading a book in bed when my phone suddenly emitted a short, sharp notification sound. Pung! A pop-up appeared on my screen. Motion detected, front entrance camera. I opened the app and tapped the live feed. A clear black and white video appeared on my phone screen. The front porch of the lake house. 2 figures were moving there. They wore hooded parkas pulled low over their faces, but their builds and movements were unmistakable. The one anxiously looking around was Hannah. And the one standing beside her with folded arms, barking orders, was Susan. On the screen, Hannah pulled something from her pocket. A key. So they really had made a copy from the one they stole from Paul, the caretaker. Unbelievable idiots. I watched with cold detachment. Hannah pushed the key into the lock. But it didn't turn. Of course it didn't. The lock I'd replaced before the engagement party had only been temporary. After the chaos, I hired a security company to change every lock again, this time to a brand new smart lock with a completely different cylinder. Their old keys were nothing more than scrap metal. I had also installed motion detection security cameras and vibration sensors on every window. The moment anything was touched, I would receive an alert. On the screen, Hannah shook the key violently, then kicked the door in frustration. The audio picked up her screeching. "It won't open! What the hell?" "Mom, it won't open. That bitch changed the lock again." Susan shoved her aside. "What about the back door? Or break a window, just get inside." Bingo, I murmured under my breath. Everything they said was being recorded. Clear intent to break in and steal valuables. And then they picked up one of the decorative bricks from the garden, aiming to smash a window. I switched screens and pressed the emergency call button. This hotline didn't call my local police. It connected directly to the Lake George Police Department, where the cameras were installed. 911. I'd like to report an active burglary in progress. My voice was shockingly calm. The location is 102 Lakeside Drive, my vacation home. 2 women are attempting forced entry with a blunt object. Confirmed via security cameras. Yes, I can identify the suspects. They're my former family members. After ending the call, I returned to the live video. Susan lifted the brick and approached the large living room window. And then, whoa. A deafening alarm blasted through the entire property, triggered remotely by me. At the same time, every floodlight snapped on, illuminating them like criminals caught in a spotlight. Eek! On screen, Hannah fell backward in panic. They scrambled like cockroaches exposed by sudden kitchen lights, running, tripping, screaming. "You're not getting away." I smiled as I watched. From the camera's microphone, I heard the distinct wail of police sirens approaching. The same sound as a week ago. Except this time, it wasn't to escort them off my property. It was to arrest them. I saved screenshots, backed up the recording to the cloud. There was no escaping this. A few minutes later, the Lake George police called me. "Is this Avery Smith? We've apprehended both suspects from your report. They're currently in custody." "Thank you. I'll file charges immediately. I will not accept a settlement of any kind." I answered immediately. "Understood. As for your father, John, he wasn't at the scene. We're questioning him as a possible accomplice, but indeed, my father didn't appear in the footage. Most likely, as always, he had simply failed to stop them." "I see. I'll leave his situation to legal judgment. As for the other 2, I want them to receive the maximum penalty." 1 month later, my father appeared in front of me after work. We went into a quiet cafe near my office. "I've started divorce proceedings with Susan." I nodded silently, and my father spoke with a heavy heart. "They're in a terrible state now, drowning in debt and compensation. They're living in a rundown apartment outside the city, screaming at each other every night. Susan's working part-time at a supermarket. Hannah was dumped by her fiancé and barely leaves the house. It's their own fault, but realizing I lived in that poison for so long terrifies me." Tears filled his eyes. I was wrong. I kept telling myself I was protecting our family, but all I did was sacrifice you. The person I should have protected, the heart I should have treasured, was yours, my only daughter. I looked at him, the weak, spineless father who once hurt me so deeply. But he was finally acknowledging his failures, cutting ties with the poison, and sitting down to apologize. "We can't go back to how things were. Not immediately. Trust takes time to rebuild." I spoke quietly. "But if you truly separate yourself from Susan and Hannah, and if you're willing to face me not as their husband, but as John, then maybe we can start building something new." He lifted his head. There was a faint glimmer of hope in his eyes. Thank you. Thank you, Avery. I swear, it's just you and me from now on." After that, I officially turned the Lake George house into a vacation rental property. The reviews were excellent, and it stayed fully booked year-round. The income became fuel for my new life. A year later, I used the earnings as a down payment and bought my own Manhattan condominium. It had a spacious living room, furniture chosen entirely by me, and silence that belonged to no one but myself. The moment I unlocked the door and stepped inside, I truly felt what it meant to be free. Freed from the chains of family, I stood in a life I had claimed with my own strength. This is my new beginning, my story belonging to no one but me.